you will want to start by logging into your Google Drive. Once you are in Google Drive, you can go over on the left-hand side and click on the button that says New. When you click, you will not see Google Forms as an option, but if you go down to More and hover over to the right, you will see Google Forms. If you click on Google Forms, it will then create a standard Google form that you may edit. The standard form is typically purple, and then the first question started as multiple choice, but all of these things you can change. The first thing you're going to want to do is name your Google form. There are two ways to name your form. Up on the top left-hand corner, by clicking here, you can name your form. This will be what the form will be saved under in your Google Drive, so this is what it will be called. And then this is the title of the form that students will see when you share the form with them. If you want them to be the same, you can simply title the form down here. So say Unit 2 Quiz, and it's going to be about the solar system. And then if you click up on the left-hand side, it'll automatically copy what you typed, and so you do not have to retype the same title. All of the changes you do on your Google form will automatically save, and this form you can re-access by opening it through your Google Drive. Once you have given your form a title, you can also give it a description. If you do not want to use the description feature, you can just leave it blank. If you do not want your form to be purple, you can change the theme by going to the button that says Customize Theme. When you click on it, it will bring up your theme options on the right-hand side. Your first option will be to choose a header image. When you click on that, it will give you some themes that were already created by Google, and you can change your search by topic. Otherwise, you can upload pictures from your computer or search through your photos by clicking on these tabs here. If you're fine with a Google image, you can scroll through and find one that fits your quiz. So this one works for my solar system, so I'm going to click Insert. And then it will automatically enter that header on top. So it gives you a nice image, and it will also change your theme color. So now these colors match the photo. I can still choose which colors I would like to include. So I'm going to stick with the darker color here. If you don't like your options, you can add a custom color by clicking on the plus sign. And then it will give you a background color where you can change the color behind your questions. So say if you like a darker color like that, you can change your background color. The last option it gives you is to change your font. It gives you 4 options. I typically use the basic font because it is the easiest to read. To exit out of your theme options, you can simply X out the box. And then if you would like to see what this form looks like to students or whoever you share it with, you can go up to the preview eyeball icon. When you click on that, it will show you what your quiz currently looks like for people that you send it to or your students. You can simply enter edit mode again by clicking on edit this form in the bottom right hand corner, and you're back to editing your quiz. In your form, you're going to want to go into the settings and set this form as a quiz. To do that, you will go up to the settings. When you click on settings, you have general, presentation, and quizzes. You will go through all 3. First, under general, you have the option to collect email addresses. This you will want to check so that way when the students fill out the form, you will get an email address so that you can send response receipts, meaning that they have turned in the quiz. Otherwise, when you email them the results from the quiz, you will have the email address, and Google will do that for you. Other settings that you have under General are required to sign in. Do you want to limit the student to 1 response, meaning they can only answer this quiz 1 time? If you would like to limit, make sure you check the box. For respondents, do you want them to be able to edit after they submit, meaning after they turn in their quiz, they are able to edit their answers? Or do you want them to be able to see any summary charts and text responses? Based on the type of quiz, you will check these boxes. For my quiz, I do not want them to be able to edit it. I want them to only answer the questions once. Under presentation, You can allow the student to show a progress bar on the bottom of their quiz, allowing them to see how far they are through the quiz and how far they have yet to go. If it's a short quiz, I do not think this is necessary. And the second option is to shuffle the question order. If you want the questions to be in a different order for every student, you would check that box. I like to number my questions, so when I do that, I do not shuffle them, otherwise the numbers would be out of order. Finally, under quizzes, you're going to want to make sure that you say to make this a quiz. When you make it a quiz, that means you'll be able to assign point values to each question, and you will allow Google to auto-grade the questions that have an answer key, like the multiple choice, the check boxes, and the drop-down. If it is a short answer, you will need to go in and automatically grade those yourself. Under quiz options, you have the choice to release their grade. Students can either see their grade immediately after they submit the test, or you can do it later, meaning the teacher can decide when they would like to email back to the students and let them know their score. Typically, I do later, so that way I am in control of when they see their score. Finally, the last three options are when you send them their quiz results. Do you want them to be able to see what questions they missed? Do you want them to see the correct answers? And do you want them to see the point values? If you're okay with all of those, then you would leave them checked. Finally, to save your settings, you'll just go down and click Save, and now your form is set up to be a quiz. To start adding quiz questions to your form. Since I turned on this setting to collect email addresses, you will see that at the top now, email address is automatically added. Even though I collect the email address, I highly recommend making your first two questions questions for first name and last name. So that way when you collect the students' forms, you can automatically see their first and last name versus trying to figure out who filled out the form based on their email address. So for the very first question, I'm going to type in first name. Now when I do that, you will notice that it automatically changed from a multiple choice to a short answer question. Over here on the right, this is where you can change the types of questions, which I'll go through in just a minute. But when you type in questions, Google will try and guess what type of question you are using. And so if it guesses correctly, then you can just leave it. So for the first name, I want them to be able to type in a short answer, and so I left that there. Other settings when you type in questions is you'll have an answer key. For this question, there is not a correct answer, so I will not fill that in. Also, you'll have a point value. I'm going to leave this question 0 points because they get 0 points for turning in their first name. You can copy a question or duplicate it, meaning that when I duplicate this, it will also, one will appear down below, or you can delete the question. And then finally, if you will want to make these questions required, meaning if a student skips this question and they try to click turn in at the end of the form, they will not be able to turn it in because they did not fill in the required questions. The three dots here will allow you to show a description or response validation, which we'll discuss later. So now if I want to duplicate this question, I could duplicate it. And the second question I would like to be their last name. Typically I keep them separate, but if you want to put the first and last name in the same question, you could do that. And then notice how it's already required and it's 0 points because I duplicated it from up above. So now my first two questions of my quiz are first name and last name. Over on this side, this is where you'll be able to add new questions. So if you don't want to duplicate, you can simply add a new question. You also have the option to import questions, meaning if you have other quizzes in Google Forms, you will be able to import questions from those forms. It'll go right to your drive, which will be discussed later. You can add titles or descriptions. So if you don't want a question, but you want to organize your quiz under, different titles of like multiple choice, true, false, short answer, you could add in titles. You can also add in images in between the questions. Otherwise, I will show you how to add a question and an image within that question. Same thing with videos. You can put videos in between your questions or within the question itself. And then you'll be able to add sections if you'd like to divide your form into multiple pages. The first page could be multiple choice. The second page or section could be true, false. For now, I'm just going to add another question. So I'm going to click the plus sign. It automatically will give you a multiple choice, but you can change that on the right-hand side. So your choices are a short answer or a paragraph. Those are similar. A short answer would be if you want them to type in an answer that's only a couple words. A paragraph would be if you are looking for a paragraph or more in the student's response. You would want to use a paragraph question. Multiple choice is another option where you can give them as many options as you would like. Check boxes are if you would like them to choose between a list, and they could check one, they could check two, they could check all of them. Drop down means you give them options, so when they click on it, it will give them options and they can drop down, look for the correct answer, and select it. File upload means that students would be able to upload a file to the quiz, to the form, using their Google Drive. Linear scale, when you use that, those you can do a range of numbers. Multiple choice grid sets up more of a chart, so you've got rows and columns. And same with the checkbox grid, you get rows and columns instead of one long list. Then they have date, so if you want to ask a question and the students are going to enter a date like month, day, or year, they have the calendar option. And same thing with time, if you ask a question and you want them to pick a time, they could use the clock to enter a time. So for my very first question, I'm going to choose multiple choice. Now I mentioned earlier I like to number my questions just to keep it organized. If you would like to number your questions, you have to manually do that by typing in the question number before typing the question. So for question number 1, I'm going to do a solar system question. So I'm going to say, what keeps the sun, so I'm going to do the Earth. What keeps the Earth in its orbit around the sun? So that is my question. Now if I wanted to add an image within this question, meaning the image will pop up right below the question before the answer choices, you can push this button right here. When you do images, you can upload from your computer. You can use your camera, so take a picture of something on your computer or from your computer. You can do a URL, so if you found something online, you could copy and paste the URL. You can go to your photos, you can go to your drive, or you can go to Google image search. So I might search for Earth orbiting the sun. Okay, and say I like this image. I can click on it and then I can click insert and it will automatically put that picture in. Now when it puts in the picture, notice how it's moving, so it's a GIF. If you go up to the 3 dots, there's left align, center align, or right align. I typically like to put it in the center. Also under the 3 dots you have the choice if you'd like to change the picture. So like I decided, oh I don't like that it's moving, I could go and pick a different one. Otherwise, I can remove. So not all pictures move, it depends on the picture that you select, or you can also add a caption to your picture. When you click on the picture, if you're thinking this is too big, you can also click on the corner and make it smaller, so that way the image is a little bit smaller, making your quiz not so long with large images. And then down below you're going to want to put in options for their choices. You can either type or you can add an image with the choices. So my choices are going to be the sun's speed rotating. Might be an option. To add another option, you're just going to click down below. I'm just going to do the sun's gravitational pull. I'll do the Earth's spin direction. And my last choice will be the Earth's location between other planets. Okay, so now I have 4 options. If I ever want to delete them, I can remove them by Xing them out. If I want to add images, I have those choices for each. Okay, now down here is where I would keep adding other choices, or you can add the choice other. I'm only going to stick with 4 choices. Now remember, this is going to be a required question, just so that I make sure students answer it before they click turn in. And then to go to the answer key, you're going to click on the word answer key, and then it will change your view, so now you can change the point value. So I'm going to make this question worth 1 point, so you can decide the point value. And then I want to make sure that I select the correct answer so that the computer can grade this for me. So the correct answer is the second choice. The sun's gravitational pull is what keeps the Earth in its orbit around the sun. If I wanted to add answer feedback, I could type in an explanation for the correct answer. You can put in links, and then you can also put in a video. For my question, I'm not going to put in any feedback. Instead, I'm going to provide that in class. So then I would click done, and it goes back to the editing view, and now my first question is done. To move on to my second question, I could either duplicate this question if I wanted to use part of this again. Otherwise, I simply go back up and I can add a new question. When I do that, it gives me a new question. I can check that it's going to be required. I can decide if it's multiple choice or what type of question, and I can follow the same procedure to fill it in, and then make sure I select the answer key if it's a question that has an answer that Google can grade for you. You'll want to share it with your students, or maybe with an individual. So I added a couple more questions to my quiz. The first question I have multiple choice. Second is also multiple choice. Third, multiple choice. My fourth question is a drop down, so these are the choices they will see. And then the fifth question is a short answer, but I chose a paragraph because I want them to type in more than a couple words. I'm looking for a paragraph answer. Now there are 2 ways that you can share your quiz. First, you can go up and you can click the send button and you can type in email addresses. Otherwise, you can share it by sharing this link, so you could copy this link and paste it somewhere. Otherwise, if you have a Google Classroom and you would like to share it with all of your students, you can switch over to your Google Classroom page. So for example, this is my Earth Science page. Remember, under Classroom, you're going to want to go to the Classwork tab. This is where you would keep all of your assignments organized. So I have a topic for Unit 2 Solar System. When I click on the Create button, I have the choice for a quiz assignment. Once I open that, I have title, instructions, and then the right-hand side is where I want to post it, and points and due dates. So first I'm going to call this Unit 2 Quiz Solar System. If you want to provide instructions, you may. So that's optional. So please complete this quiz. When you choose a quiz assignment, Google Classroom will automatically assign a blank quiz where you can go in and you can start making your quiz questions. But if you've already created your quiz and it's in your drive, you're going to want to X this out, so it deletes it, and you're going to want to click Add. When you click Add, you will go to your Google Drive. If you've opened your quiz recently, you'll find it under Recent. Otherwise, you can go to My Drive and search through your files. So since I've used it recently, mine is right here. So when I double click, it'll automatically add my form to this assignment. Over on the right hand side, I can choose which classes I would like to post it to. So I'm only going to post it to my Earth Science, but if you have multiple hours taking this quiz, you can post it to multiple Google Classrooms at the same time, and then you can choose if you want to do all students or if you're just sending this, to 1 or 2 students. For points, you can assign a point value if you would like. This quiz is very short, so mine's only worth 6 points. And then for due date, if you want to set off a time that this is due, you can do a date, and if you want, time is optional. So maybe I want to have them take it by tomorrow. Finally, you can choose a topic. So if you have topics on your classroom page, you can keep it organized. So I want this to be posted under my Unit 2 Solar System topic that I already had created. So I'm going to select that. Otherwise, you can always create a new topic right within this assignment, and then it will put that on your classwork page. The rubric is where you can add a rubric for grading if you would like the students to be able to see how it's graded. Typically for the quiz, they can already see the point values, so I do not add in a rubric. Then your last choice is up in the right hand side where you're going to assign it. You could either click assign if you want to post it right now. Otherwise, in the arrow there's a drop down where you can also post it right now with assign. You can schedule, so if you want this to post tomorrow at 8 a.m. you could schedule a time. So if you pick schedule, here's your date and your time of when you want Google to automatically post this quiz. Otherwise, if you're not done with this assignment, you're not ready to post it, you could save it as a draft. Otherwise, you can delete it. So if I want to post it right now, I would click assign. And then it automatically adds it under my Unit 2 solar system. So I've got the Unit 2 quiz. It says it's due tomorrow. And so when I click on it, I don't have any students in my class yet, so it says it's assigned to 0. But if you had 20 students, it would say assigned 20, and it will let you know how many people have turned it in so far out of 20. And then you can always access the quiz by clicking on it here or by clicking on View Assignment. And then if you had students in your class, they would pop up here and you would be able to see that they were assigned, each of them, the same quiz. After you have posted your Google form to your Google Classroom or you shared it with the send button, you can now access it and see the responses. So that way you can tell how many people have filled out the quiz, and Google will start grading the questions that have an answer key. So when you go back to your Google form, you'll be able to see your quiz under the questions tab. If you switch over to responses, you can see I already have 2 responses, so it gives you a heads up. So I've shared my quiz with 2 people and both people have responded so far. On the top you have 3 choices for viewing responses. You have summary, question, and individual. Also, right now I am still accepting responses. If I had this posted, you can always turn that off, meaning that they would not be able to submit their quiz. Under Insights, it gives you an average, a median, and a range of the points. So far 3 out of 6 is my median or my average. But keep in mind that Google does not grade the questions that are short answer, and so those you have to manually go in and enter the points, and then that will change your insights. So under Summary, if you keep scrolling down, it will give you frequently missed questions. It will give you who has taken your quiz and what their score is, and it tells you that it has not been released yet, meaning they have not seen their score. I will show you how to release their scores in the next video. So I have first name, I have last name, and then it gives me a summary. So for the first question, I can see that both people have answered the sun's gravitational pull, which is the correct answer. So it gives you a breakdown of how many people have chosen each question response choice. Same with question 2, question 3, question 4 looks like both people picked Mars, where Venus is the correct answer. And then for number 5, it doesn't have a correct answer, so it will just list the responses that were given, because it is a short answer. If you go under the question view, you can see each individual question by scrolling through here. So question 1 was first name, question 2 was last name. So if I skip to this one, it gives me the question. I've got view options if I want to be able to see the picture, and then I can see the correct answer. So you could use these when going over the correct answer with your class. And then finally, there's individual view, where you'll see each individual's quiz and exactly what they answered. So the first person here, I can see that they got the first question right, second question, but looks like they missed the 4th. So that's why they got 0 out of 1. But now notice question 5, it says it's wrong, because this is one that Google cannot grade. So I would read the response. And so I was looking for 2 factors that affect the strength of gravity between 2 objects. So I was looking for mass, and I was looking for distance. So it looks like this question had both. So then I would give them both points that they earned. And you can even add in individual feedback. So I could say, great response. And I can click save, and that will put that there. And then I just click save here, and it saves their quiz. Now they cannot see this response until I release their score. You can release on an individual basis by clicking this, which means it will email them their results. Otherwise, in a minute, I will show you how to send it to everyone at the same time, so you do not have to send it individually. But then I could go to my second response. I could scroll through, see which ones they missed. They missed the same question, but then I would need to read question 5 and enter the points, and I could add feedback as well. One other helpful way to look at scores is you can export these results by creating a spreadsheet. So we'll put this into a Google Sheet. When you click this button, okay, it says, do you want to create a new spreadsheet or select an existing? I just want to create a new spreadsheet for all this information, so I'm going to click Create. When you do that, Google will automatically export all of your data into a Google Sheet and save it in your Google Drive. So I can see the timestamp of when they completed it. I can see their score. This is where I can see their first and last name, which keeps it a little easier for me to keep track of. And then I have each question, and you can see their response. And then you can read their response there. So this would keep all of the data in this Google Sheet. And if you create the Google Sheet and people are still responding, it will automatically update or populate as people are entering their results. So if I sit in the back of the class, I could watch this spreadsheet and I could watch everybody click turn in, and their name will pop up here. Once I have all the names for the people in my class, then I would know everyone's done taking the quiz in class. Submitted their responses, and you want to send them their results. There are 2 ways you can send back their results. Remember, in the settings, if you chose to have them see their score right away, they've already seen their score. But if you would like to email them their score along with the form that will show them maybe the missed questions or the correct answers, you can do that on an individual basis, or you can do it to the whole class. So if you're under the individual where you see all of their choices, and I went through and I graded the short answer, right? There is a choice to release a score for each individual person, so you can click that and then it will email the score to the student. Otherwise, if you want to do it all at once, so email the results to the whole class, you would go under Summary. So remember, before my median score was 3 out of 6. Now it has been updated the scores, so one person got a 4 out of 6 and one person got a 5 out of 6, and that was for the points added from the short answer that was graded. So as you grade the short answer, the scores will improve if they got it correct. That is why I recommend sending their scores later, so that way it's an accurate score if you have a short answer to grade. Now, to release their scores to the whole class, you would scroll down to where you see scores. You'll see their email addresses, and you'll be able to see that you have not released their scores. So this blue button, Release Scores, when you click that, you can either type in a message. So you might say, here are your results for the quiz. Otherwise, you can leave it blank. And then you can choose if you want to send it to all respondents, or maybe you just want to send it to a couple people. You can choose who you'd like to send it to. Then you'll click Send Emails and Release. So now this will email every student a copy of their form, and then depending on the settings, it might show them their missed questions, what the correct answers were. So typically I'll release these scores, and then I'll go over these scores in class using like the summary view of the questions, so that students can see what the correct answers were and how many people in class got those questions right.